right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Alvey. I am the Assistant Planning Director for Oldham County Planning and Development Services, and I welcome everyone to the July 20th Technical Review Committee meeting. Just to give everybody a brief overview of what the purpose of this meeting is, it gives the developer the opportunity to submit their preliminary plan to the utility agencies, and the utility agency gives them their comments based off of the plan, and then that plan is updated before they submit their application and plan to the Planning Commission for review and either approval or denial of that. So what the procedures will be today is that staff will ask the applicant to come forward and give a general overview of the project, and then staff will go through and provide their individual agency comments. I have a couple of comments from agencies that could not attend today that I will read into the record. And then what we'll do is we will open it up to the audience. Again, this is technical review committee, so all of your questions should be technical in nature, either to the applicant or to any of the serving utility agencies. No decision is made here today. This is only technical review. And again, just be sure to keep your questions technical in nature, either to the applicant or to the serving agencies. So with that being said, Mr. Triplett, if you want to come up and give us a brief overview.
Absolutely. Thank you. My name is Derek Triplett. I'm with Land Design and Development, 503 Washburn Avenue, 40222. So, big picture wise, we've got about, I think the application actually said 27 acres, but we've got about 25 acres. There is some confusion on some slivers of ground adjacent to the site, and we are proposing 17 lots. This plan actually missed a label on this lot there up in that right-hand corner. And so we have a total of 17 lots, all ranging between 1 acre at the smallest, largest of which being 2.15 acres. We would be serving all of these lots with a proposed public right-of-way. We would be traversing that across the stream, tying into Rose Island Road. We'd be proposing a culvert in that location across the stream. We are providing a detention basin on site that would satisfy any water quality requirements, detention requirements, as well as any floodplain compensation that may be necessary. As the plan currently stands, we don't list any waivers or variances on this plan. That is our intent moving forward. So if any comments that we were to receive today would necessitate changes, we intend to submit a plan for Planning Commission that would still not have any waivers or variances. So with that, I look forward to any questions you all may have of me and your general feedback.
I'll start with planning staff comments. I counted 17 lots. Okay. Because that number 6 was labeled twice. So there are 17 proposed subdivision lots. The building limit lines, the front yard need to be reflected on the plan as 150 feet minimum lot width on all lots that don't meet the 150 foot lot width at the public right-of-way. So just be sure that front yard line or building limit line reflects that width of the 150 feet. Provide building envelopes for lots 1, 2, 3, and 17. Local access streets with curb and gutter require a 60-foot right-of-way, so please update the plan. Include location and width of proposed easements, water, electric, and roadside ditch drainage areas. Include location of fire hydrants on the plan and include it in the legend. Include areas of substantial existing trees and general description of type and size. Include location of any sinkholes on the plan. Include areas of steep slope. If none are present, add a note stating no steep slopes on site over 30%. Include all houses, barns, outbuildings, fence rows, etc. that are currently on the property and indicate which feature will remain and which ones will be TBR to be removed. Update General Note 7 to include FEMA map, and I have the number for you in your comment letter, and the portions of the property that are located in Zone AE, because I think there's the floodplain maps there's actually 2 that cover this area. So just to update that, and then there is floodplain on there, so be sure to include that Zone AE on there. In general notes, include in general notes that lots 1 and 2 will not have access to Rose Island Road. Access will be from the local subdivision street. Lot 17, which is that duplicate number 6, I just called it 17 for notation purposes, that access will be subject to KYTC approval. Include cluster mailbox location on the plan. If USPS is not requiring cluster systems, please provide a letter granting local delivery from USPS. Include the following in the site data: acreage in the right-of-way, amount of open space, and your lot coverage. And then finally, filing deadline for the August 23rd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting is Wednesday, July the 27th. I received an email from MSD that says for the project at 3400 Rose Island Road, no sewers are available. Board of Health approval would be required. And then we did receive an email this morning from Attorney Randy Strobo that had some questions regarding the timing of the application in reference to the neighborhood meeting. I'll provide you, this is all your copies in here. So my letter, MSD letter, and the email from Attorney Strobo. So that is all the comments that I have, and then we will start down with you, Chief Smith, if you're good to go.
Issues, just a couple observations. Due to the location and the distance, it's going to be a slow response time for us. We have to make an emergency run there. Can you hear it all right? Okay. And the second issue, it may create more traffic for us. I suspect most of this traffic will go out to 42. We don't have a lot of accidents on Rose Island Road, but we have a lot of complaints. So I don't know if a traffic study would be appropriate or not, but it very well could cause us an issue. That's all I have, Amy.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, thank you. I'll try not to repeat any comments that you already had, Amy, and I'll provide a letter with these comments detailed for you, Derek and Mr. Clark. Of course, because the disturbance area is greater than an acre, the Division of Water, KYR 10, and an Oldham County stormwater permit will be required. Also, as a result of the work in the 100-year floodplain or proposed areas, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Kentucky Division of Water, and Oldham County Floodplain Coordinator permitting will be required, or coordination. There's also the perennial and intermittent blue line streams shown that would require further investigation and coordination with the Corps and the Division of Water. Derek, you mentioned the potential for the floodplain compensation. If the basins, one of which is shown kind of overlapping in that 100-year floodplain. If that's the intent for that, we just need to, again, get coordination from the Corps correspondence that that's acceptable and include that in all your design calcs. I know you guys have worked on other similar projects that address that issue, so it'll be applicable here too. And we've discussed that in pre-application meeting and before. Let's see, Amy mentioned lots 1 and 2 access. Of course, lot, I guess the one labeled 7 or 6, which maybe is now 17, I'm not sure, you'll have to get a KYTC permit to access Rose Island Road there, since that's state controlled or maintained. She mentioned the right-of-way, mentioned sinkholes. There's also a wetland that's identified on the USGS online mapping. You'll just need to investigate that. You know, sometimes they're shown on there, but further investigation determines that they're not truly wetlands, but you'll have to look into that. There are a couple red line notes I've got on here with regard to the erosion control notes. Of course, you'll have more comprehensive notes in your construction plan set, but I'll give you a copy of this. And then with regard to the roadway design, as you're aware, we require the roads be designed in accordance with the AASHTO Green Book and allow the use of the low volume road standards, which a lot of this would apply there. And Amy mentioned the mailboxes also, so that's all I have.
Okay. Matt?
You'll just have to get with me with the road names, proposed road names and addressing.
Sir?
Mr. Williams?
There we go. Okay, so based on, I put 16 because that's what you had, but it actually is 17 because I was going to ask that question. It would, under current projection numbers, it would net us 3 students. The serving schools are Harmony, North Oldham Middle, and North Oldham High School. Based on the rated capacities and the other impacts on enrollment, it puts it at 92%, 92.71% of capacity, which means that it is adequate and you would be granted technically 35 a year, but you'd only use the 6 or 17. So.
Okay. All right, Chief Brown?
Right, there we go. Yeah, a couple things, just like Chief Smith, I have some concerns about delayed response time, so I'd love to see a traffic study, as always, on Rose Island Road. We're currently experiencing some delayed times, especially into the yacht club area. I realize that's not the developer's responsibility for the road, but I would like to see large access and accommodating grade for getting the trucks in there because of the difficulty of turning off a Rose Island Road. There's another development proposed down Rose Island Road, similar request I had for them, just because of the difficulty turning off of Rose Island to access it. Again, accommodate for hydrants. We'd like to see a hydrant at Rose Island Road, one in the big circle, and then one in the bulb cul-de-sac. And just ensuring it looks like it is that the turning width allows for a complete 180 for a fire truck in the bulb cul-de-sac.
Okay. Mr. Ward?
Okay, so these properties will be used by on-site sewage septic disposal. We were out there on June 8th to do a preliminary. Soil out there is actually very good or adequate for what we need in on-site sewage. A lot of sandy, silty loam soils. That shouldn't be a big issue. All the lots meet the 1 acre minimum requirement set by the Board of Health and that for on-site sewage, so that's all been met. We will go back out and do individual site evaluations for each lot if or when housing and building is to be proposed. I do have a letter to give Ms. Alvey as well, and I'm basically just waiting a stationary role until you're all ready to start building houses, and we'll get out there and figure out what they need.
Okay.
Something?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I forgot to mention, and Chief Smith, and you mentioned also the traffic. As a result of the trips, peak hour trips generated from only 17 lots, the Oldham County subdivision regulations wouldn't require a traffic assessment or a traffic impact study. It just doesn't generate that much. However, I think we're all aware of the conditions on Rose Island Road, that there are some narrow spots, some trees close to the road. So if you have any suggestions, we'd be willing to work with you for improvements along the roadway that could be addressed as part of this.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we will open it up to the public. Just be sure that you come up to the podium, speak loud and clear into the microphone. That's how everything is recorded. Just state your name and address for the record. And then again, just keep your questions technical in nature. Can be either to the applicant or to any serving agency. So if anybody wants to come up and ask any questions. No? Yes, sir. Just come up and state your name and address for the record, please. Hi. Good morning. Afternoon. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. My only concern I have is
Give me your name and address.
Dawson at 3019 Belknap Beach Road.
Okay.
Concern I have is, and I'm a member of the yacht club, is just the runoff on that effectiveness of that basin. We have excessive runoff as it is now. What we have in place has improved a lot over the years, and has been because of the runoff coming from the, I guess, the south side. And just want to have assurances that the effectiveness of what is proposed will not impact any further. And then for I know the developer has expressed the fact that they will be doing that, but my other concern is who's going to be responsible if there is maintenance on that basin after the developer leaves? And that's one of the concerns that I have.
We'll let the county engineer answer that question.
With regard to effectiveness of the basin, in accordance with our Oldham County regulations or ordinance, they designed, the engineer will be required to design this basin to meet the post-construction flow for a 2, 10, and 100-year storm. They'll provide calculations to my office for review prior to approval of construction plans. In addition, again, since this project is affecting blue line streams and the 100-year floodplain, there's also going to be coordination with the Kentucky Division of Water and the Army Corps of Engineers in all this design process. So those are the regulations that we adhere to ensure that concern of yours. With regard to maintenance, the developer signs a maintenance agreement and it's recorded that they're responsible in the future would be the HOA for maintenance. What that typically results in is they're responsible for the day-to-day maintenance, I'll call it, mowing, keeping the basin operational. If for some reason there's a larger failure, we'll say, the county would work with the developer to determine what needs to be done, but ultimately the day-to-day maintenance is the HOA or the developer at the early stages.
Thanks.
Okay. Yes, sir. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Of course. My name is Luke Boyette, and I reside at 3600 Deer Pond Cove, or I'm the property owner at 3600 Deer Pond Cove. I was reviewing the plan as drawn and the zoning regulations with regards to both CO1 and R2, and based on my lay read, to be clear, it appears a number of the lots are out of compliance with the minimum road frontage. And the lots that are exclusively zoned CO1, Lot 10 is marked 114 feet versus the 150-foot minimum. Lot 11 is marked 149 feet versus the 150-foot minimum. Lot 13 is marked 123 feet versus the 100-foot minimum. Of the lots that are split zone CO1 and R2, Lot 4 is marked 112 feet versus 150-foot minimum road frontage. Lot 7 is marked 63 feet versus 150-foot minimum, a very material variance. Lot 8 is 61 feet versus 150-foot minimum, a very material variance. And the newly labeled Lot 17 is 144 feet versus 150-foot minimum.
If you notice on the plan, that is the front building line. That's where that is measured at. So the ones that are in a cul-de-sac, obviously you can't have a cul-de-sac. Yeah, if you had a cul-de-sac bulb that met the 150 feet, so lots, you spoke of lots 8, 7, and 8 on there. And that was my comment regarding the building line on those, is because they're in a cul-de-sac, so you can't get that acquired road frontage. That's why there's a front property line requirement. So that front building line gets pushed back to that 150-foot mark.
Okay. I don't believe the zoning ordinance references the setback line. It just says minimum road frontage. So is that not at the actual frontage on the road?
It not in the cul-de-sac bulbs. It's not. Because there's another area, and I can show you where that's at in the book after the meeting.
Okay. And with regards to the usage of septic, thank you for your comments, Mr. Ward. I understood your comments with regards to the minimum 1 acre lot to install septic. Is that further evaluated on the basis of the presence of the floodplain and any steep grades?
Floodplain really doesn't hold regard to me. And just to put it in perspective, think of all the houses that go down like Riverside Drive and that are on the river, and their systems are under the river for 8 to 6 days. When it comes to floodplain and on-sites,
and it's not your jurisdiction, but
the idea being is if it isn't a floodplain, say it floods in 2 days, and if it's gone in 2 days, that would be the concern being. But I don't have a specific setback from floodplains. It goes more to drainage ditches, creeks, and streams, and blue line body of water.
Prohibition of septic in the floodplain and the presence of steep slopes have no bearing on the minimum lot size requirement?
There's nothing on, at least with my end, when I was out there, steep slopes won't be a concern.
Okay.
It's pretty flat. There is some topography, it undulates a little bit, but it's not like greater than 30% or anything where we'll be putting a lateral field.
I see. Okay. Those are the only comments I had. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Hi, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Mayer, and I'm with the firm of Strobo Barkley. We represent Mr. Boyette. In addition to Mr. Boyette's concerns, we just wanted to point out that since the neighborhood meeting was just held last night, we'd ask that further hearing of this matter be postponed in order to take account for any comments that arose or any issues that came up during last night's hearing or last night's meeting.
Yeah, and again, there is no decision being made at this. This is all just informational. So there are no decisions being made, so they will have to apply for the planning commission meeting, and that is where a decision will be made. This is all just informational. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon. Just state your name and address, ma'am.
Victoria Berry,
Pull that microphone down for you. There you go.
2716 Belknap Beach Road. I would like to know from the group involved here, what constitutes the CO designation and the R1? What part of this development has to remain or should remain part of the conservancy, and what part can be the residential part?
So CO1 conservation does not mean that the property is undevelopable.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that you can't build a home on it or have any structures on it. That usually follows floodplains, steep slopes, heavily treed areas, anything that has environmentally areas on it. So that's why that was established that way. And those maps were established back in the 60s. So, and if they, again, the minimum lot size is 1 acre in CO1, it's 1 acre regardless if they're on septic, irregardless of zoning. So most likely when those maps were done back in the 60s, they looked at the floodplain and the proximity to the river and things of that nature to establish that CO1 zoning. But that does not mean that it's a conservation area that doesn't allow any development.
Again, with the steep sloping, all right, if a property owner buys a lot that faces the marina, which I'm sorry, but that map's kind of pathetic from
You can look at it on your screen right there.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
These that face the marina.
Uh-huh.
All right, that is a deep slope. Okay. Once a property owner owns that lot, okay, it is their discretion as to what to do with those trees and erosion control. Is that correct?
Correct. Unless there's anything that's placed in a tree preservation area. So if you all are wanting to see a tree preservation area along the backside of those lots to buffer the backs of those homes to the marina, that is something that you can request from the developer and ask for that. Either work with them and hopefully you get a positive response. If you don't, then you can bring that up again at the planning commission meeting and ask for that to be a condition of approval or binding element on that plan to have a 20 or 25 foot tree preservation area or do not disturb area to maintain that natural vegetated state in those rear yards to buffer the marina. Yes.
Meeting is that the August meeting or the?
The filing deadline is next Wednesday. And if they file then, the meeting will be on August 23rd at 9 a.m. in this building, in this room. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Okay, so again, this meeting was just technical in nature. Got comments from the audience, got comments from agencies. The developer will go back and review those comments, update their plans, and then again, the filing deadline is July the 27th, which is next Wednesday. And the planning, if they file for that meeting, then the hearing will be on August the 22nd at 9 a.m. Yes, sir. Sure.
This is Luke Boyette, property owner at 3600 Deer Pond Cove again, just to follow up on my attorney's comments. The application that was submitted on June 29th indicated that it contained On the submission checklist, item 10 requires a log of the neighbor meeting and the report of responses to the concerns raised therein, and potentially any accommodations or consolations that are made to the plan to be circulated to the attendants of the neighbor meeting and then submitted to the technical review committee in its application. That item was checked as if it were complete. However, it is patently impossible that it was complete because the neighbor meeting happened 2 days ago. As such, how is this meeting appropriate to be held at this time?
I'll let Mr. Urban respond to that because he was sent the email from your firm or your representation.
Thank you.
Director of Planning and Development Services, and I understand that that is was checked off on the TRC application. We typically, as staff, when we do a pre-application meeting, recommend that that meeting happen before the TRC, so that anybody that has an interest that couldn't make it to this meeting would already be able to address some of those concerns. And I got to admit that that's probably a flaw in the way that we actually propose that it be done. Certainly, all of your comments could be addressed between now and the time, and must be addressed between now and the time that it goes in front of the Planning Commission. What I'd like to do is see if, I know the applicant is here and their engineer, if they have any recollection of technical questions that were submitted at the neighborhood meeting that they could address, or how they might respond to those questions.
I understand that those responses were to be distributed to the neighbors identified and submitted to the TRC with any revisions, if any, prior to this meeting occurred, and this is expressly per the subdivision regulations as they are written, which may be contrary to practice, but that is the letter of the regulation.
What we might do then is require that they come back to the technical review committee with those questions to make sure that that is fulfilled.
Opinion in that regard as we stand here today? Do you have an opinion in that regard as we stand here today in terms of?
If it's already a challenge by folks that are interested in this case, I would highly recommend to the applicant that they come back to the Planning Commission, to the TRC.
Your committee. In full compliance with the regulation per distribution of materials following the neighbor meeting, any revisions there too to accommodate those concerns, and then resubmission to the TRC? Yeah. Thank you.
Giving comments, Derek.
I wanted to speak on some of the conversation that we had Monday at the neighborhood meeting. The majority of the concern centered around silt control and erosion control as to how that would affect Louisville Yacht Club. There were mentions about tree preservation. We answered those questions by stating we would abide by any erosion control regulations, and there were no comments that were really raised at the meeting that would necessitate changes to this plan.
You do understand the comment and the concern that that was a checklist item on the TRC application that was checked as if it was completed, but it wasn't. So even though there may or may not be any technical issues, they're raising a procedural question.
But yeah, unfortunately, Barry Baxter couldn't be here today, but I will relay that to him as well. All right, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, so again, if they do choose to refile for the August TRC, let me give you that date. That would be August 17th, 2022. If they choose to move forward with the Planning Commission, that will be August 23rd. So either way, you will receive notice of either hearing. You will receive notice if they reapply for updates to their existing application for the August 17th. If you receive notice of this hearing, you'll receive notice of any future hearing, either TRC or Planning Commission. Okay, with that being said, we'll stand adjourned at 1:30.